What if I told you that you've been speaking English wrong for years? And the worst part is that everyone around you has been too polite to correct you. Yesterday, I recorded conversations with 50 English learners who considered themselves fluent. And every single one of them made the same 5 grammar mistakes within the first 2 minutes of speaking. These aren't complex grammatical rules that only professors care about. These are simple errors that instantly expose you as a non-native speaker and prevent you from being taken seriously in job interviews, business meetings, and social situations. The most shocking discovery? Even teachers who have been speaking English for decades still make these mistakes daily without realizing it. In the next 12 minutes, I'm going to reveal exactly what these 5 grammar errors are, show you why they're sabotaging your credibility, and teach you the simple tricks that native speakers use to avoid them completely. By the end of this video, you'll catch these mistakes before you make them, and people will start asking you where you learned to speak English so naturally. Here's the first mistake, and it's probably the most heartbreaking because it happens when English learners are trying their absolute hardest to sound professional and educated. You walk into a meeting, you want to make a great impression, so you carefully say something like, "I have been working in marketing since 5 years." The room goes quiet for a split second, and you know something sounded wrong, but you can't figure out what. The mistake? You used since when you should have used for. This error makes even advanced speakers sound like beginners because it shows you're still translating from your native language instead of thinking in English. Native speakers use with specific points in time, like since 2019, since Monday, or since I graduated. And they use with periods of time like for 5 years, for 2 hours, or for a long time. The memory trick that changed everything for my students is this. Since points to when something started, for measures how long it lasted. Practice right now. I have lived here for 3 years. I have lived here since 2021. Subscribe now because mistake number 2 is even more embarrassing. And you're probably making it in every conversation. The second grammar mistake is destroying your chances of sounding intelligent. And it involves a word you probably use 20 times every day without thinking about it. English learners constantly say, "I am agree with you," instead of "I agree with you." And this single error makes native speakers immediately classify you as a beginner, no matter how sophisticated your vocabulary might be. The problem happens because many languages require a form of to be before the verb agree, but English doesn't work that way. When you say, "I am agree," you're literally saying, "I am in the state of agreeing," which sounds completely unnatural to English ears. Native speakers simply say, "I agree," "I disagree," "I don't agree," or "I couldn't agree more." The same rule applies to other opinion verbs. Never say "I'm think," "I am believe," or "I am understand." Instead, use "I think," "I believe," and "I understand." Here's what's fascinating. This mistake is so common that I created an entire playlist about opinion verbs, and it became our most popular series because millions of learners were making this error daily. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss the advanced techniques I'll share next week about sounding confident in English conversations. Now we're getting to mistake number 3, and this one is particularly cruel because it happens when you're trying to be extra polite and respectful, but you end up sounding rude instead. Picture this scenario. You're at a restaurant, you want to order something, and you politely say, "I want a coffee, please." The waiter serves you, but something feels off about the interaction. What happened? While "I want" isn't grammatically wrong, it sounds demanding and childish to native speakers, especially in service situations. Native English speakers soften their requests with phrases, "I would like," "could I," "I'll take," or "may I get." The difference is dramatic. "I want a coffee" sounds like a demand, while "I'd like a coffee" sounds like a polite request. This applies to all situations where you're asking for something. Instead of "I want to speak to the manager," Say, I'd like to speak to the manager. Instead of, I want information about your courses, say, I'd like some information about your courses. The transformation in how people respond to you will be immediate and remarkable. Share this video with someone who needs to learn the difference between sounding demanding and sounding polite in English, because this mistake is costing people respect every single day. Here's mistake number 4. And it's the one that makes my heart break the most, because it happens when English learners are talking about their achievements and experiences, but they accidentally make themselves sound less impressive than they really are. You've probably said something like, I have been in New York last year when telling someone about your travels, or I have been in that company for 2 years when describing your work experience. Native speakers immediately notice this error because they use different prepositions for different situations. When you visited a place and returned, you say, I have been to New York, not, I have been in New York. The preposition to indicates a completed trip, while ein suggests you were living there or staying for an extended period. Similarly, with jobs and companies, native speakers usually say, I worked at that company, or I was with that company, rather than I have been in that company, unless they're talking about their current position. The correct patterns are, I have been to Paris 3 times. I went to London last month. I worked at Google for 5 years, and I'm currently working at Microsoft. Master these preposition patterns, and your stories about travel and work will sound natural and impressive. Click subscribe to learn more preposition secrets that will make your English sound effortless and native-like. The 5th and final mistake is the most subtle, but it's what separates good English speakers from great ones. And most people never learn this because it's not taught in textbooks or traditional grammar courses. You probably say, how do you call this? When you want to know the name of something, and while people understand what you mean, native speakers never use this construction. The correct question is, what do you call this? Or what is this called? The confusion happens because many languages use how for this type of question, but English reserves how for methods and processes, not for names and identification. Think about it logically. How asks about the method or way something is done, while what asks about the thing itself. You ask, how do you make coffee? Because you want to know the method. You ask, what do you call this drink? Because you want to know its name. Native speakers say, what do you call your boss? Not, how do you call your boss? They ask, what is this feeling called? Not, how do you call this feeling? This distinction might seem small, but it's the difference between sounding like you're translating from another language and sounding like you're thinking directly in English. Now that you know these 5 critical grammar mistakes, you have the power to transform your English immediately. But here's what most people don't understand about language learning. Knowing the rules isn't enough. You need to train your brain to catch these errors before they come out of your mouth. Starting today, every time you want to say since, pause and ask yourself, am I talking about when something started or how long it lasted? Every time you want to say, I agree, remember that English opinion verbs don't need to be. When you're about to say, I want, soften it to, I would like in polite situations. Before using prepositions with places, think about whether you visited or lived there. And whenever you want to ask, how do you call? Switch it to, what do you call? The beautiful thing about these 5 mistakes is that once you master them, people will immediately notice that your English sounds more natural and sophisticated. You'll gain confidence in job interviews, feel more comfortable in social situations, and finally sound like the intelligent, capable person you truly are. But here's the secret that successful English speakers know. These 5 mistakes are just the beginning. There are dozens of other subtle errors that are keeping you from sounding truly fluent. And I've spent years identifying them and creating simple systems to eliminate them forever. Next week, I'm releasing a video about the 3 pronunciation mistakes that make native speakers struggle to understand you, even when your grammar is perfect. The week after that, we'll explore the 5 conversation patterns that make people want to keep talking to you in English. And in our advanced series, I'll teach you the insider secrets that make some non-native speakers sound more eloquent than native speakers. Subscribe now and ring that notification bell because this English transformation journey is just getting started. No, share this video with with every English learner you know. Because these 5 grammar mistakes are holding back millions of people from the confident, natural English they deserve. Remember, fluency isn't about perfection. It's about avoiding the mistakes that matter most. Your journey to effortless, natural English starts right now, and I'll be here to guide you every step of the way.